Hi, my name is Jill Patrick. I'm an elementary school art teacher, and I also wrote a book titled Chevy, the Perfect Pet. The book was beautifully illustrated by Helen H. Wu and published by Iris Williams, owner of Butterfly Typeface Publishing. Like many others, I would like to take this opportunity to read my children's book. Hopefully kids will enjoy listening to it throughout their day, nap time, or bedtime. Thank you. Chevy, the Perfect Pet. Mom, Dad, and 7-year-old twins Timmy and Tiffy Jones live on a perfect street in a perfect house. I'm so excited, Timmy said. So am I, Tiffy echoed. Thank you, Daddy. Mr. Jones had brought Chevy home a year ago. He had gotten him from Mr. Dixon, his friend from work. Over a short period of time of having Chevy in their lives, the entire Jones family agreed that Chevy was the perfect pet. Chevy is a very smart, obedient German Shepherd who follows every command given to him by his family. Come on, boy, Timmy calls to Chevy. Chevy runs eagerly to Timmy as his tag wags from side to side. Chevy loves spending lots of time running and playing with Timmy and Tiffy and sometimes Dad in the backyard. Every morning, the Jones family sits down together to eat breakfast and have morning conversation. I love your waffles, Mommy, says Tiffy, as she and Timmy each enjoy a plate full of Mom's waffles with a spoonful of peaches and whipped cream on top. Thank you, honey, Mom replies as she sips her coffee. Dad reads the morning paper as Chevy looks on from his comfortable doggy bed. The 5 members of the Jones family are very happy living at the end of their street in their cute little house with the red door. What a good boy you are, Mom always says. Yes, we're so lucky to have such a perfect pet, Dad agrees. Many of the Joneses' family and friends agree that Chevy is indeed the perfect pet. Nothing at all like the Mitchell's dog, Bo. Chevy and Bo are good friends, and they look a lot alike. Chevy once overheard Mom tell Mrs. Cooper, the neighbor from next door, Chevy is so loyal and devoted to our family. Kind and loving words caused Chevy to feel happy inside. Whenever Chevy needs to go outside into the backyard to poop or even to play, he goes through his swinging doggy door. Chevy's family doesn't know it, but he has a secret. Sometimes, when left alone, he carefully slides through the secret hole that he has dug under the backyard fence and proudly struts around the neighborhood. Visiting with the neighbors is one of his favorite things to do. There have been numerous occasions when the neighbors, including Mr. Gurley, the mailman, have come to speak with Dad about the mischievous actions of which Chevy has been accused. I don't know how that's possible, Dad would say sympathetically. The Joneses' love for Chevy is unconditional, and they believe he can do no wrong. After looking many times under the roof and around the picket fence, Dad would gently repeat over and over to the frustrated neighbors, there is no way for Chevy to get out of the backyard fence. Yet the neighbors continued to express their complaints to Dad and to one another. Chevy is trampling through my flowers, Mrs. Cooper insisted. And there are holes dug in my yard, Mr. Stevens grumbled. Chevy stared straight ahead with his big, brown, sad, watery eyes. It was hard for Mom and Dad to believe that Chevy was the cause of so much trouble. Chevy's family had never quite noticed the various things he had moved or attempted to rearrange when left at home alone. He always tried to clean up his messes whenever he heard their car coming down the long road or pulling into the driveway. Once before, on a chilly afternoon, Chevy sat attentively as his family prepared to leave home. "I love ice skating," Tiffy announced with excitement. "Can we get hot chocolate afterwards, Mommy?" Timmy asked. "We sure can," Mom said and smiled. "Can Chevy come too?" the twins asked in unison. "The ice is too dangerous for him, honey, and we cannot leave him in the car alone," Mom explained. "But why can't Chevy go with us?" Tiffy cried. "It is much too cold for Chevy to be out today," said Dad. "He will have to stay home alone." There were special times when Mom and Dad would allow Chevy to ride in the back seat of the car. Appointments to the groomer, veterinarian, or family vacations always made Chevy happy. Chevy watched from the window as the family departed in their automobile. He then sat quietly on his bed and looked as if he would cry. A few minutes later, Chevy wandered into Timmy's bedroom. Chevy wasn't planning to jump onto Timmy's bed, but whoosh! There he was, bouncing so high that he almost bumped his head on the ceiling up high above. Chevy played for over an hour. Soon there was a huge mess of clothes and toys all over the room. Chevy played so hard he needed a nap. After he woke up, he could not believe the big mess he had made. In the distance, he could hear his family's car traveling down the winding road. Without a minute to spare, Chevy was scarcely able to put everything back in its proper place. Chevy's heart was beating fast. He ran so fast that he almost slid across Mom's slippery, shiny floor. Chevy landed safely on his doggy bed just as Dad turned the key, unlocking the front door. This was a close call indeed. As springtime came and went and summertime approached, there was so much excitement in the Joneses neighborhood. All kinds of things were going on, including cookouts, bake sales, pool parties, and even kids making homemade lemonade to sell. Chevy loved watching and listening to the various activities. During this time of year, spending time together with Timmy and Tiffy made Chevy so happy, especially when given a chance to perform his funny dog tricks. One hot August day, Chevy overheard Jimmy, Mrs. Cooper's teenage son, talking to his friends. "This is the best birthday party ever. All of my friends are here," Jimmy said loudly. Mrs. Cooper had spent lots of time planning every detail for Jimmy's special day. Chevy peeked through the fence, listening and observing as the teenagers talked, laughed, and swam in the cool water under the hot summer sun. From his viewpoint, he could see lots of scrumptious food and brightly colored decorations. Earlier that day, Chevy's family had gone away for a weekend visit to Grandma and Grandpa's house. "Too bad Grandma is allergic to dogs," Timmy said. "I really wanted Chevy to go with us." "Me too," Dad said, "but we'll only stay for 2 days." Chevy was always sad when his family had to leave him home alone. Nonetheless, Chevy would still become very excited when Chantel, the dog sitter, would come by throughout the day to make sure everything was okay whenever his family was gone away for more than a day. Chevy paced and ran circles around his backyard. He could hear the teenagers laughing, playing, and splashing water. As he eavesdropped, Chevy's only wish was to be invited over to play with the teenagers instead of running around all alone. Chevy wondered when his loved ones would be back home. He misses them when they're away. During these times, Chevy wishes that he could be one of Jimmy's best buddies too. In Chevy's opinion, Jimmy is such a cool kid, especially while playing on the rolly thing with the fast wheels. Chevy would sometimes imagine Jimmy throwing him toys to run and fetch, or rubbing his head and saying, "Good boy," like Dad does. Chevy was interrupted from daydreaming when he overheard Jimmy and his friends telling funny jokes and laughing loudly. "Why did the chicken walk across the road?" Jimmy screamed. "I don't know," answered Sean. "Why?" "Because he doesn't know how to drive." The teens laughed even louder, including Jimmy. After a while, Chevy no longer heard music, laughter, or any other sounds coming from Jimmy's backyard. Chevy's pointy ears would always stand up a little taller whenever there were noises coming from the Coopers' backyard. Chevy peeped through a small hole under the fence and saw that everyone was gone. Chevy realized Jimmy's food smelled a lot like the food his family ate, but nothing like the food his family nor Chantel fed him. Without hesitation, Chevy squeezed his body through the little hole under the fence and trotted over to get some of the food. He was ecstatic the teenagers hadn't eaten it all. Chevy had already eaten some of the pizza in the box and some of the chips when suddenly he heard Jimmy, Mrs. Cooper, and all of Jimmy's friends returning to the outside area. Chevy was busted. He thought the pool party had ended and that the food was just leftovers. "Oh no!" Mrs. Cooper screamed at Chevy. "Stop that!" Chevy panicked and ran towards the fence, but not before grabbing one more slice of pizza. He then dragged himself and the pizza through the tiny hole he had dug under the backyard fence. "That dog is not a perfect pet," Mrs. Cooper continued to scream. Chevy hoped by the time his family returned home from Grandma and Grandpa's house that the entire incident that occurred at Jimmy's birthday party would be forgotten. Chevy quickly realized Mrs. Cooper would tell on him for eating the food at Jimmy's party. He also knew that she would write Mom and Dad a note like she had the last time he came over uninvited. Chevy was so nervous he never moved off his doggy bed again that day. When Chevy's family returned home the next day, Mom noticed the note posted on their front door. Tired from their trip and excited to see Chevy, the note was placed on the kitchen counter. "We missed you, Chevy," Tiffy said. "Come here, boy," Timmy said as he and Tiffy rubbed and tickled Chevy's belly. The entire family was glad to see their perfect pet. The following morning, as Mom began to prepare breakfast, she remembered to give Dad the note previously attached to the front door. "Today, Chevy came into our backyard and took pizza and chips. We will come by tomorrow to discuss this. Mrs. Cooper." After Dad read the note, he looked at Mom quizzically. "Mrs. Cooper is complaining about Chevy again," Dad said. "What is she saying now?" Mom asked with exasperation. Dad showed Mom the note. They both looked at Chevy and shook their heads in disbelief. After breakfast, Mom and Dad went over to speak with Mrs. Cooper. "We can't believe how naughty Chevy was while we were away," Dad apologized sadly. "He is not the perfect pet we thought he was," Mom agreed. Without hesitation, Mrs. Cooper announces, "I will be more than willing to take him off your hands," and then added, "I know that with us, his behavior will be much better." Just as Dad was about to hand Chevy over to Mrs. Cooper, Timmy and Tiffy could be heard crying, "No, Daddy, please don't give Chevy away. Their pleas for Chevy caused Mr. Jones to change his mind. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cooper, said Dad. I just can't give you our dog. No matter what Chevy does, we will always love him unconditionally, and he will always be our perfect pet. The end. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me read Chevy the Perfect Pet. Take care.